What is it like to quit weed? Well, I can tell you because 44 days ago is when I consumed cannabis for what I think to be the last time. And I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about what to expect because I was terrified. If you're like me, you are used to being comfortable, being high, because it is a way to control your emotions, a familiar feeling, and to not be high. I wasn't high all day, every day. We'll talk about that. But to not do it is a very scary thing. And what changes in you emotionally, physically, and what's on the other side of quitting weed. This is going to be a story of encouragement and hope because it's the greatest thing and the greatest decision I've ever made. So I want to talk about what happens physically and emotionally because I think I had a lot of questions about that and I was scared. I also want to talk about my why, like why did I choose to do this? And maybe that will resonate with some of you and maybe encourage you to consider doing this as well. That's the goal of this video, is just to reach other men or women who are struggling with this decision and give you more information to make a better decision, whether quitting is for you or not. So let's just talk about what happened first. I was with my wife, so I've been married for 14 years, and my wife and I were at a pool. Our kids weren't with us, and I had taken like 10 milligrams or maybe even 15 gummies, and she was having some drinks and we were just at this pool, her and I was like, yeah, let's go have some fun. And I just remember feeling my emotions shift from being pretty chill to being kind of that ride up the roller coaster, right? To where I felt like I was more chill. At least I was telling myself that, but I was actually getting more anxious. And it ended up just causing a fight. And it actually ended, and this was for our anniversary, and it actually ended up ruining our 14-year wedding anniversary with my wife. And we had dinner after the pool, and it just blew everything up because my demeanor changed. I was a little bit snappy. I didn't really think it did, but anyway, I realized after that I had to stop, and I have a whole backstory. I quit drinking a little over a year ago, and people were like, hey, why'd you quit drinking? And do you feel like a million times better? The truth was, I just told people like, oh yeah, I feel way better. But I actually didn't, because I just replaced it with more THC, more weed. The reason I'm mentioning that is because it's all about masking emotions and masking and controlling how we feel inside. And because alcohol was removed and weed was still there, I didn't feel less anxious. I actually did. I probably had more energy. I wasn't drinking like, benders every night or anything. It was just drinking a little bit to a lot on the weekends consistently for years and years. So when I gave that up, I just didn't feel like my soul was repaired and my energy was all that different. And so when I quit weed, that all changed. It was insane. That was like the missing link. So let me tell you about how much I used. I smoked for the first time probably when I was 15 or 16. My roommate in college sold it and had bricks of weed in our dorm room and stuff. It was just everywhere, and I loved it. I've actually been diagnosed with ASD, so for me, and ADHD, for my mind, it was a really good way to be able to connect with people easier and to calm myself down and kind of break open my heart, be more creative. There's a lot of good benefits I think that came from it. The problem was that I have an addictive personality, and when I was allowed to use it, and no relationship I was in ever really loved that I did it. In fact, it caused issues in most relationships I was in, even before my marriage. So what ended up happening when I quit alcohol about a year ago, I basically have been consuming every night and sometimes during the day on the weekends, anywhere from 10 to 20 milligrams of THC a day, maybe sometimes more. Sometimes I would do that and smoke a whole joint by myself, and have like these crazy sort of, I would take a shower afterwards and have all these thoughts about death and like the universe, and just be sort of like in the matrix and like totally disconnected from the reality of the world, and being grounded. I was never grounded. So I was always coming off and on of being high, sober, high, sober. And for most people, I think if you had a conversation with me, you would never know I was high. I wasn't red-eyed. I wasn't like talking crazy. I mean, if I overconsumed, yeah, for sure, but I didn't usually because my body was adjusted so much. So for like 8-9 months, every single night, doing it. My excuses were like, hey, I can connect with my kids easier and it allows me to be in the moment more, which is true. It did allow me to feel like I was in the moment more and connect with my kids more. But what it was doing was preventing me from actually feeling any of my emotions because I was masking them. And it was constantly making my nervous system go up and down, and it was just causing this massive amount of anxiety that I was attributing to other stuff. I was just always denying. So I would say my ego and my pride has had the tightest grip on weed over anything else in my life. I have been white knuckling having weed in my life because I felt like it was such a necessary thing I needed to feel whole and feel complete. But when I started consuming so much and so consistently, I literally felt detached from earth, detached from life. And it's like that analogy where you have like the frog in hot water and the water gets hotter and hotter and begins to boil, and the frog doesn't realize it's in boiling water until it's too late. It's like I just consumed more and more until I thought I recognized myself, but when my wife or even friends or kids would hold a mirror up, really my wife, I would say, hold a mirror up to my face, metaphorically, and say, here's who you are now. I don't recognize you. And you seem like you're not okay. You're bipolar, you're anxious, you're depressed, you're in shame and guilt and all this other stuff. I couldn't see it. Or I could see it and I didn't want to believe it. So I guess I didn't really talk about the emotional and physical stuff that happens when you get off weed. I wanted to give some context probably first. So that was kind of my realization that this has to stop so I can save my marriage, and relationships and family. Okay, let's talk about quitting and what happens to you physically and emotionally. So when I stopped, I started going to YouTube and looking for videos like this. This is why I'm making this video. I'm like, what's going to happen? First thing that happens is you are tired as hell. I just remember after that first night, because I usually take it on my way home, I would take a gummy from work at like 5, driving home from my office. And my body just wanted it. And for the first, few days, the first week was the hardest, where I was irritable, like totally exhausted, like barely able to keep awake, needing naps, like during the workday and stuff, which I never nap, ever, by like 7:30, 8 p.m., being so flippin' tired that I would just be like crawling to bed and trying to get under the covers to sleep. And when I did gummies, it was almost like a bolt of energy for me. Like, I'm not like most people where they're like, yeah, I can't take cannabis because it just makes me tired and I go to bed. That's not me. I take THC and I'm like, let's go do some crazy stuff. Let's go on a run, a hike, mountain bike, take the e-bikes out, or like go be social. I'm the opposite, maybe because of my ASD. Like, so when I was taking it, I was like, energy ran through till like 11 p.m. and then I would crash and sleep really well and wake up usually groggy, right, because of THC. So I was exhausted by 8 p.m. just crawling to bed, and this happened for like, I would say, like 7 to 10 days. What I did keep doing was like doing workouts. So I have a trainer where we're doing a lot of functional strength training, and I just remember telling him like, "Hey, here's the deal, dude. I'm sober from weed right now. It's been only a few days, and just having like zero energy and just like yawning throughout the workout and just like struggle bussing." So um, the other thing too is you kind of get depressed, because while you know this is part of the process, and you are okay with it because you've watched videos like this and you know there's something on the other side, it's like, man, this sucks. So you're just kind of getting through each day. Drink tons of water, keep working out, keep doing what you normally do, or maybe even if you don't work out, add that in. Go on walks, like move around if you can. I did go on a lot of walks with my headphones in around the neighborhood and stuff to try to just get my mind off of things. Yeah. So after about 10 days to 2 weeks, probably the 2 week mark is when I felt like the exhaustion was wearing off. And I was like in this sort of numbed out, like trance-like state, because like I wasn't able to hold conversations. I didn't have any curiosity about people's emotions. I remember we went out to dinner with my parents, or no, my parents actually came here to the house like day 5, and I remember just being like, I can't even talk. I have no interest in talking. I can't hold a conversation. They, I think at that moment didn't know that I had stopped. They did a little bit afterwards, but I just remember them leaving and then like texting my wife being like, "Is Will okay?" Like, no, he's not okay. He's getting through some stuff. So yeah, anyway, after about 2 weeks, it started to wear off, the feeling of, just being underwater. So the crazy stuff that happens though, after like the 2.5 week mark, 15 days, is like, you start to feel things again, in terms of like maybe strong emotions. But here's what's crazy for me. What usually I would feel those, and then a wave of anxiety would like go across my chest into my nervous system with weed, and like set the tone for my feelings. And I would feel feelings, and this is happening now because we're like 45 days in, right? And it's like that anxiety is like suppressed. And I want to mention some medication I'm on, Lexapro, for generalized anxiety. I'm also on low dose of Adderall, and I have been for a long time for ADHD. And for a long time, because I would go in my past on and off weed, and when I would take breaks from weed, the Lexapro worked really well. Like it suppressed my anxiety. I was like emotionally stable and all of that stuff. So it was working again. I was like, oh my gosh, I can feel emotions and not be like triggered and freak out. My nervous system wasn't overreacting, and like the communication with my wife, like the littlest things were triggering me before, while I was taking weed and through the process of coming off of it, like super high, super low, super high, super low, like just all over the board. And now it's like this all starts to stabilize, which is crazy. So like all of a sudden I was feeling my emotions, but I wasn't reacting to them in negative ways. I was like in control, and I am in control now, which is it's like this is just an amazing feeling, because it's been so long since I felt in control of my emotions. And it's like the weed was there to control the emotions, to control all of this stuff. And it was actually throwing me off kilter into the matrix, totally ungrounded, obsessing over death, obsessing over stuff that didn't matter, feeling this like subconscious stuff around shame and guilt. Like I've done a lot of things and been sober from some other stuff, but this was still clinging on, and I wasn't feeling like the kind of man I wanted to feel. When you remove all that and you're like, and for me, as somebody who works to strengthen his faith and walk in God, so that's another component of this. You like kind of just give up control and be like, God, I'm here. Use me for how you want to use me. This stuff is holding me back. I don't want it to hold me back anymore. Like, make of me what you will. in what you desire. And when you relinquish that control and you just walk through life that way, it's an incredible feeling. And you suddenly start looking outward more and want to bless others and bless your family and all of that, which is always a struggle for me. I'm working on it. But anyway, so emotionally stable, tired, being removed. And then your energy starts to go up. So like now, I mean, I get tired sooner. Like, I feel like my body's supposed to get tired. You know, I have 2 kids, they're 4 and 8, 2 girls right now. And I feel like my body's supposed to be tired around 10 p.m., right? 10:30, because I wake up at 6:30. You know, I work really hard, you know, try to be a great dad. You're always moving around. Like, I'm not just hanging out playing video games, right? I'm doing tons of stuff. I should be tired by 10 or 10:30, and I am. I'm tired faster, but I sleep great. And then I wake up less groggy. So like with weed, you're waking up, and I just remember, and I still wake up groggy. It's not like most people wake up and are like, boom, ready for the day. Some people do earlier. I'm not a morning person, so maybe that's part of it. But maybe I'll become one. But I'm going to bed earlier and am able to wake up and come out of that grogginess way, way faster. So that's the key. Speaking of sleep, let's talk about sleep for a second. When you stop weed, you're gonna hear this from other videos, dreams are crazy. Dreams are kind of still crazy still. Like, you have the craziest dreams. In a way, I was like, ooh, this is gonna be fun and exciting. And it kind of is, because you kind of are like, okay, apparently I'm gonna dream these lucid, crazy dreams. And it's true. I mean, your body is literally detoxing from the cannabinoids that are in your fat cells and all this stuff. And you just, I don't know, whatever in that process that affects sleep and dreaming while you're using it is stripped away, and like natural things are going on. I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't know, go watch Huberman, but you dream these crazy dreams and they seem symbolic. It's like, I mean, some of them are about death. Some of them are about like metaphorical death of stuff that's bad in your life, relationships and people. I mean, it's crazy. I can't, and you wake up and you remember them. You're like, these are the craziest dreams I've ever had. And I'm still having those. There may be less, and they're not every night. For like the first couple of weeks, every single night having these dreams. Now they're more like every few nights. I'll have these kinds of experiences. So right now, I have higher energy. I have higher enthusiasm for life. I feel like there's much more hope for my family and my relationships and my future. I know that I'm still gonna make mistakes and all of that, but I feel like I am grounded now. Has it been a struggle to stay sober? At times, yes. My wife and my 2 girls right now were invited to this mommy-daughter lake thing, and they're on their way home now. So they've been out of the house for 2 days. When they leave, usually I'm like lighting up a joint at night, listening to music, doing whatever, super high. I'm like, they're not here. I'm gonna get super high and just like melt and zone out. I really wanted to do that. I had a cigar instead, which is helpful. To replace it with something, just like I replaced drinking with LaCroix and NA beer. So that would be the other thing. Replace it with something healthier. I mean, a cigar isn't the healthiest thing you can have, but like, it's a baby step for me. Anyway, so that was tough. I really wanted to get high or drink, but I didn't, because I just know that'll put me right back. So it's early in my journey still. I just want to say, if you're thinking about this and you're wondering how it's going to improve yourself and your relationships, I think the consensus is, for everyone that's done it, is that it will. And it does. Let me be a testament to it. I mean, in my journal, all right, which is, I would also encourage you to write stuff down, because it's fascinating. It's like you shift your perspective on all this stuff, right? And here's the thing. As an addict of alcohol and weed since 16, my emotional state was frozen from when I started using substances. So right now, and really, actually, let me say this, my goal, or as an addict, I was turning to comfort, not with people for comfort, I was turning to substances. So instead of turning to my wife for emotional comfort and giving her that reciprocity of emotional connection, I was just doing, self-medicating. So she wasn't getting that. I wasn't even meeting my own needs. I didn't even know I wasn't meeting my own needs. I don't even know who I am when I'm on weed. And she doesn't get her emotional needs met. So my emotional state was frozen from 15 or 16 to I'm 38, okay? So I think my goal is to have emotional competency come back online. So like porn, weed, alcohol, things that stunted my emotional growth have been removed. And this allows you to go with introspection into connecting with your thoughts, emotions, your body, and then your environment around you. And when you practice that introspection, you know where you stand, you know where you have a voice, and you can choose strategies to get your needs met that isn't masking and isn't substance. And that is a much more joyful, beautiful state of life to live in. I promise you that. So because I've underfunctioned emotionally, my wife has had to overfunction for me in a lot of ways. And she feels like has to tell me how I must be feeling since I don't share anything with her. And now I'm starting to share more with her. I was only able to share and have like deep conversations with my wife if I was high. Otherwise, it was a massive struggle because I knew weed was an option. And it's like, if I take a gummy, my heart's gonna break open. I'll be able to connect with her way better. When I take that option off the table, and I'm telling you, your walls start to crack open naturally. And I wanna share, I wanna talk about my feelings. It's not like this uphill battle and grind where I'm like, oh, I hate doing this, but I have to do it anyway for her, otherwise, yada, yada. No, I actually feel like I want to. And she's like, she's asked me a lot of times when I'm sober, she's like, did you take something? Did you take something? I'm like, no, I didn't. She's like, are you sure? You know, she didn't trust it yet. She's very supportive, but she's like, in a loving way, she's like, you didn't? Really? She's like, I just never seen you like this. It's a beautiful thing. So anyway, she's been forced to be my parent in a lot of ways, and I don't like that. And she's not my enemy, but my brain had forced her to sort of think about her that way and viewing her as my enemy because it was preventing me from doing what I wanted to do, which is look in the mirror and realize who I really needed to be. And that allowed me to sort of ultimately fundamentally distrust intimacy. This is all the negative stuff that happens when you cope with substances and weed for me. So anyway, the sobriety is allowed me to remove all of those things. And I want to read a quote really quick because I think for me, what success looks like is just being emotionally mature. Weed does not make me emotionally mature. I'm 38, it's time to grow up. And being emotionally mature is a beautiful thing. It's allowed me to have I'm an owner of a company with 18 employees, and I am much more level-headed with my company and all of that stuff. I don't get as nearly as triggered. I'm much more level-headed. I feel like I can just see clearly. Like I love it. Oh, and memory. My short-term memory was garbage. I would literally think of needing to think of doing something or saying something, and then my high brain would like go off into this space, and then like literally I would be like, I'm forgetting what I just thought of, and then I'd try to push back towards what I was just thinking. It was gone. And I would sit there being like, what the heck was I just thinking? What did I just need to do? What did I just need to say? And I would just sit there like an idiot and forget. So that is gone, and my brain's coming back online. My my memory is back, and I'm like super clear in my thoughts. So a lot of things are coming to light as I talk through this. So I'm going to read one thing before I sign off, and I hope this has been helpful. But you're not healing to be able to handle trauma, pain, anxiety, or depression. You're used to those things. You're used to those things. I was. You're healing to be able to handle joy and to accept happiness back in your life. That is what quitting weed will do. I'm very confident for anybody. You're going to learn to accept joy and happiness back into your life without a crutch. So I hope this video inspired some folks. Go accept joy and happiness back into your life today. And I don't know when I'm gonna release this video, but comment, and I would love to help anybody that needs to know more or needs some support, because you can't do it alone. You have to have support. You have to tell other people you're doing it, and you have to trust that they will love you and wrap their arms around you. And if they don't, they're probably not the right people in your life. So go be awesome. Thanks for listening to my story. Thanks for letting me share.